Good morning, everybody. Happy Wednesday, and we are rolling right along to our next rookie. And this was a pick that it seemed like pretty much everybody got behind pretty quickly. Now, granted, we're in the fifth round now, and when you get to the fifth round, you get through 150 plus players, you're going to start finding it a lot easier to be on board with pretty much whatever the team does. It's kind of hard to disappoint fans once you get down this far in the draft. However, I think that even with that caveat, people were pretty excited about landing Mike Morris because, according to most people, he was supposed to be gone by this point. Most big boards had him gone by this point in the draft. I had him gone by this point in the draft. And it seems like we did very well for ourselves with this pick. This was a guy who was borderline day two, and we got him at 151 overall. So, people were pretty amped up about it. And again, it was a pick designed to work on our seeming area of biggest need, the defensive line. And yes, it's basically been confirmed that Mike Morris is going to be playing on the defensive line for us, which it's going to make this next part hard because that's not really what he did at Michigan. But I'm going to do my best. I'm going to talk about him the best that I can, but understand that the way we're going to use Mike Morris is probably not going to be the same way Michigan used him. Michigan used him in a very odd way for a guy who weighed as much as he weighed. So listed position is defensive end for the Seahawks. They said bulk up to like 3 tech size on the draft day phone call with him. So I don't know if we're looking at him as a direct 3 tech or we just want him about that size. But either way, my understanding is he's currently about 295, which is great for being a 3-4 end. So that's where I imagine we're going to play him when we're in those sets. So anyway, Mike Morris, here's what I can say about the guy. Michigan Wolverine, they've had a dominant defense the last couple years, and he's been a valued part of that defense. 22 years old on opening day is what he will be. His measurements are... this is going to be kind of hard to follow here because the percentiles are compared to other edge players because edge is what he did in college. But obviously, if you're comparing him to other interior linemen, it's going to be very different here. But 6'5", would be 87th percentile for edge players. 275 pounds, which is not even what he weighs now, would be 77th percentile. Arm length 33.5 inches, 49th percentile. 10-inch hands would be 60th percentile. But unfortunately, we just kind of have to throw all that out. He doesn't even weigh that amount anymore, and the percentiles are misleading. So we're going to use this guy in what seems to be a relatively creative way. I don't think we're going to necessarily pigeonhole him into just one role. I mean, Michigan didn't. Michigan got good things out of him by being very flexible and versatile with him. So I imagine we will too. But this is where the comparisons are going to be kind of hard. And that also goes for his combine scores because his combine was bad. He had a bad combine. He slimmed down to 275, so he could presumably run a little faster and jump a little further. And if you're looking at him as an edge, he is one of the least athletic edges you will find. 4.95 40, 172 10-yard split, 28.5-inch vert, 9 foot 2 inch broad, 22 bench press reps. That's, for an edge player, that's somebody who's going to go undrafted. But again, that's not what Mike Morris is going to be here, so we have to kind of look at things a little bit differently here. And if you look at those numbers through the lens of him being a 3-4 defensive end or a 3-tech, I mean, it's still not great, but it's no longer a problem. Like, when you're playing those positions, your straight line speed is rarely going to matter that much. So, at the end of the day, we can throw a lot of this stuff out. And and we just kind of have to, well, I'd say watch him play. But you can't even really do that. Okay, let's just do what we can, all right? This is going to be tough. I like this player a lot. I like the pick a lot. It was one of my favorite picks of this draft. But just understand, there's going to be a little bit of guesswork here because we got a very incomplete picture of what this guy is going to do relative to what he is going to do for us. That being said, let's look at his career numbers. 2020 was his first year at Michigan. He played 5 snaps. Basically nothing. There's nothing to look at here. I got nothing to say about a season where he played 1 game, 5 snaps. Started to get utilized heavily in 2021, and he made a positive impact on that Michigan defense that, like I said, was very good this year. 14 games, 360 snaps, so not a massive workload, but a noticeable workload. 16 tackles, one for loss, half a sack, one interception, one pass defensed, 14 QB pressures, missed two tackles. Most of his snaps were pass rush snaps. He had a 21 coverage snap sprinkled in there as well, 130 run defense snaps. Almost all of his snaps come on the defensive line, as you would expect. However, and this is the thing that's going to actually make this interesting, he played 81 snaps as a defensive tackle and 66 snaps over the offensive tackle, whereas he only had 173 on the outside. So you can see the full-fledged versatility that Mike Morris offered the Michigan defense in 2021. They played him everywhere. They even played him a few snaps at the nose tackle spot, which is really weird, and I don't think we're going to do that. But the fact that they're lining this guy up inside and outside as much as they did, that's the thing that is kind of more interesting to me, even though this was by no means his best season, not even close. That being said, it was a pretty good season. He was graded well in all the main categories. Coverage, not so much, but he was only in coverage 21 times. It doesn't really mean anything, but decent run defender, decent tackler, decent pass rusher, just solid all-around player. He broke out in 2022, mostly because he became a full-time edge rusher. He played in 12 games, 360 snaps again, 23 tackles, so they weren't asking a ton of him, but he made 11 tackles for loss, so almost one a game, 7.5 sacks, huge improvement as a pass rusher, 3 pass deflections, 1 forced fumble, 37 pressures. So he went from being just a guy on the pass rush to a genuine force as a pass rusher. And it's not like his snaps went up. That's the thing to keep in mind here when you're looking at Mike Morris. His snaps were stagnant and his pressures went through the roof. That's indicative of how much he improved as a player. And he only missed 2 tackles this year as well. So overall, you'd say that's a pretty good career of not missing a lot of tackles. Most of his snaps come in pass rush situations. One thing I noticed from watching the tape is it seems like he's not on the field that much on first down, and he usually comes on second down and third down. Kind of notable. And let's see, what do we have here? Not a ton else to say that's super compelling here from the snap numbers, because he just wasn't used in that versatile way anymore. You can just take a look at it here, and 353 defensive line snaps, 5 box snaps, 1 slot snap, and he played 5 total snaps as an interior defensive lineman. Basically everything he was outside the tackle, 321 snaps, 27 over. So he became basically a full-time edge rusher when Michigan lost Aiden Hutchinson. And I think they lost their other edge rusher as well, so it makes sense. But this is not necessarily how we're going to be using Mike Morris. So what can we really take away from it? Because he played well. His grade skyrocketed. His run defense improved a little bit. Tackling went up. Pass rush grade was really, really good. Coverage grade was okay. And, I mean, his career totals are not anything over the top. 27 games, 725 snaps, 40 tackles, 8 sacks. Like, it's not anything amazing. But the real problem is most of this comes when he's playing as an edge rusher. That's not necessarily what I'm trying to figure out here when I'm looking at Mike Morris. So let's try to figure this out a little bit better, and we're going to do that in our video later today. See you guys in the afternoon. Go Hawks.